Well, welcome to Tanasi Trace Alpacas. Today let's discuss what an alpaca needs to be able to live here on the farm. Now here's a typical pasture. There's probably a half acre maybe of land here that's been 4x4 fence. And we have boards on the top of it only because this is a small working pen. And what we've done is we have one of those little sheds that you can protect your car. And instead, we protect a dozen boys. And that's all they need actually for protection from the elements. They want to be able to get out of a thunderstorm or a hailstorm, and they'd like to be able to break the wind from their bodies in the winter months. And that's really all an alpaca needs for shelter. So we have a water bucket, we have lots of grass, and we have happy boys. So they need some shade trees in the summertime, so they have actually access over here to this shade area that you see. They have access to that hill so they can get into the trees. We built this loafing shed back a few years ago and discovered something, that a three-sided shed that has no access to the outside from the back wall doesn't work well for alpacas. They're not happy inside this shed. They'll come in to eat, they'll come in to roll, to dust their backs, and then they get right back out again. If the elements are really, really bad, they may go in there for just the shortest time during the storm, but they will not stay inside of a shed that does not have an opening on the back wall. So should you consider something small, which this is, it's about 10 by 20, be sure and put a doorway or an opening on the back side of the shed. Just 2 feet wide is all they'd need to know that they have an escape, both from the front and the back. And that's why the sheds that are car ports are actually a better investment at $600 than building a three-sided shed that cost us about $1,500. So consider that when you're looking to get some kind of a shelter for your alpacas. Okay. All of our pastures consist of 4x4 fencing. This is just typical field fencing, and we have it posted maybe every 8 feet or so, and we just square it off wherever it's most convenient and there's plenty of grass. And that's all they need as far as protection. This is not a strong fencing because the alpaca does not challenge a fence. They respect it completely. They don't try to jump a fence. They don't try and push against the fence like a cow or a horse would. We don't use any barbed wire anywhere on the farm because barbed wire will catch in their fiber and considerably hurt the animal. So if you're looking to get into alpacas and haven't had them before, this is all you'd need. It's just a three-sided shed and a place to put some hay. Here on the farm we have small pens for each cluster of animals. Keep in mind that we're a larger farm. We have about 60 to 65 animals at any time. And you may only have 3 or 4 or 5, and if so, a three-sided shed and a small pasture may be all that you need. But with us, we have inside the barn the capability of taking care of quite a few animals at one time. And so there's maybe 8 or 10 in any one pen at a time. We love gates. There's a gate everywhere inside this barn. So if we need to do work on the animals, such as to trim their toenails, which has to be done maybe once every quarter of the year, or if we need to weigh them and give them medications, we can open a gate here and open a gate here and send those animals right down this little corridor, and there's a scale at the other end of the corridor. We'll weigh the animal and give them medication that matches exactly what their weight is. And so we can do that with any one of these pens throughout the barn. And this is, like I said, a bit larger, high-tech, so to speak, than what one would need if they only had about 5 or 6 alpacas. Well, alpacas don't, they're not a threatening animal, so it's not a matter of you being protected from them as much as it is them being protected from predators. And the dog is the alpaca's most vehement predator. The dogs by themselves are safe and comfortable. The alpaca gets used to who the dog is and they're fine. But when there's a group of dogs that they don't know, the animals can get into the pasture with the alpacas, and one alpaca against 2 dogs, the alpaca's dead. The dogs just run them down for the fun of it, and the alpaca will run from them, and they'll kill them. And so we have Our pastures are all structured so that we're keeping dogs, which includes coyotes, out, and we don't have any issues with smaller animals such as raccoons or possums or cats. The alpacas pretty well ignore them. Inside each pen we have feeding capabilities for each group of animals, and so we keep hay pretty free range for them. Every day we like to keep hay in there. Even when we are in full grasses, they'll come in on a hot day, sit in front of a fan to keep cool, and munch on a little bit of hay in between meals. We have these feeders that we bought over at Tractor Supply Store, and they're actually made for goats, but they work so well for alpacas. This keeps the food off the ground, and as I said, about a cup per animal per day means that each one of these, if we just sprinkle the feed into the bin, it holds about a half a cup. So that's why you see so many bins around when there's only maybe a half dozen animals in this pen. And then we keep a fresh water bucket. And this one needs to be changed as we speak, so I'll just dump it out and let it refill. And then this has a float in it so it shuts off, so we're not wasting water. And if the animal drinks the water down, it'll automatically refill again to the top level without spilling over and running all over the field. So all you really need to house alpacas is some fencing, a square footage to be able to give them some grass, a shelter, some fresh water, and some shade in the summertime, and you're good to go. Should you have any other questions or any concerns, I'm available. Reach me either through email or give me a call. I'd love to chat with you. Thanks again.